Let's talk about some week 9 predictions, shall we? Got a lot of them to get to here that I haven't already gotten to. So some week 9 predictions. Let's start with Penn State, Ohio State. I cannot believe we didn't do this game Tuesday night, but the line is like 18 and a half. What is it? Yeah, it's 18 and a half right now. Disappointed, I guess, is how I am approaching this game, that it's not seemingly more competitive, at least on the surface. So here's the question that I think everyone's asking. How capable is James Franklin of getting his team back? Because Penn State, I mean, they're crushed. Got to be crushed after last week. Conversely, Ohio State could not be flying any higher than they are right now. But think about the challenge here. Not only does James Franklin have to get his team back emotionally, health-wise, he's also got to get them to play by far the best game they've played all year. See, it's not just can they go on the road and play at a B-minus level. No, they got to play their A-plus game to have a shot here. And I just have a hard time envisioning that. The second thing I'm thinking about is obviously the health status of Sean Clifford. See, to me, it's all about Penn State. I'm pretty confident with what I'm going to get from Ohio State. But if I were a special teams coach, or if I were the defensive coordinator at Penn State, what I would ingrain in my guys all week is assume we don't even have a quarterback. You got to go into this game as you would if your starter was out. Even though he's going to play, pretend he's out. Go into the game knowing you're in full-on need-to-score point mode. You've got to get special teams points. You've got to force turnovers. You've got to score defensive points to give yourself a shot in this game. I don't know how many, 7, 10, 13, I don't know how many, but I do know that's what they're going to need. Then, if you get that in combination with maybe more than you expected, and certainly more than you got from a not 100% Sean Clifford last week, then at least you can take a shot. At least you got a puncher's chance. But I just wonder, I know this Penn State defense is very good. I just wonder how much pressure will be on C.J. Stroud. Remember when Ohio State played Northwestern? Was it last year? I think maybe. And it was a Big Ten championship game. And Northwestern led them like for a lot of the game. But yet you always had the feel there's not enough pressure on Ohio State. They know Northwestern can't pull away. And eventually they did. Eventually they bit them, and then they pulled past them. And that was that, because Northwestern was so limited. That probably is what you end up seeing Saturday. Even if Ohio State has trouble offensively, there won't be probably enough pressure put on Ohio State. How could you ever, knowing what we know about both teams, how could you ever envision Penn State jumping out to a 17-3 lead in this game? The answer is special teams points and defensive points. Outside of that, I don't see it. So the way I went here is Ohio State win. If it's at 18 and a half, the model slightly leans Penn State plus the points. I got to tell you, what I hope happens here, regardless of the outcome, I just hope we don't see a blowout, because it would be an ugly week for everyone if we saw a blowout this week. So I'm going to take Ohio State to win, lean Penn State in the points. Don't really like either side in that. Texas at Baylor, sneaky game here. It's a noon Eastern time kickoff. Baylor favored by 3. Oh boy. Okay, so Texas is out of the bye, and their biggest problem since the Oklahoma game has been the ability to get good starts but not finish games. So you would figure as much tread as could possibly be on the Longhorn tires will be on those tires this week. Now, having said that, is it enough? Because as you can see, Baylor still favored here. Here's the problem, as I see it for Texas, is even if you do get a complete game, you're going up against the best rushing offense in the Big 12. That would be the Baylor Bears. 238 per game, a little over 6 yards per carry. And what did we see do Texas in? In fact, in these games they've lost. The Oklahoma game, you just pick one. What did them in? It's given up huge amounts of rush yardage on the ground, which is normally where rush yardage happens, by the way. And so I don't necessarily know that it looks different here. Here's what I think happens. What I think happens is Texas has enough big play ability, and whatever they can empty out of the bag, they empty it this week. And so I think we're going to look at a game where Texas finds a way to win, but then when we pull up the box score, Baylor will have dominated time of possession. They will have gotten their yards on the ground, maybe even outgained Texas. There's just some way Texas found a way to make one more play. They have no margin for error. Texas has got to win every game if they want a shot at the Big 12 championship. And so I'm going to take Texas. I don't have a good feel on that one either. Normally I save the games I don't have a good feel on until Thursday. How about Miami at Pitt? This one is a weather special. Weather meaning I don't like Miami going this far north this late in the season. And so immediately when I see Miami at Pitt, I mean, this was preseason. When you looked at the schedule, you said, oh, Last week in October, they're going where? Just mental note, make sure you check the weather. Well, we have rain and temperatures around 50 degrees. So not exactly South Florida. But the model and I disagree on this game, or do we? Because I kind of flip-flopped as I was walking into the studio. So here's where my head's at here. Yes, you do have Pitt in what you consider a letdown spot. Yes, it is that early, sleepy, noontime, 11 Central kickoff. But the dynamic I don't like is even if Miami pulls this off, and they are, by the way, a 9-point dog, even if the Canes pull it off, what it's going to have to include is Tyler Van Dyke, who is the quarterback there now ever since King was out. Tyler Van Dyke's going to have to throw the ball a lot. Now, I don't think Miami's running the ball up and down the field on Pitt. Pitt is very good enough at least, at generating pressure. And my problem in trying to see an upset here, and this is where I disagree with the model likes Miami. I mean, it likes them to possibly pull the upset. I don't, because I think that on their way to pulling the upset, they're going to have to throw the ball too much. And in those kinds of conditions, I like Pitt to win a turnover battle. It's hard to predict that, but I just think if you're playing percentages, it's a lot more likely that you see Pitt force some mistakes than it is for this offense and this team in desperation mode and this staff under immense pressure to go on the road and just perform at high precision levels that we haven't seen them perform at all year, to be frank. And so I went Pitt. And then I thought to myself, if that starts to happen, you could quickly kick a snowball down the hill. So I went all the way past the model. The model's sitting there saying, hey, possible Miami upset here. And I said, no, model. I shut the computer. I said, I think Pitt's going to win, and I think Pitt's going to cover. And if that happens, I can almost assure you we're going to be talking about Manny Diaz in some shape, form, or fashion on Tuesday or Thursday of next week. FSU is at Clemson. If I were to have told you in the preseason that Florida State is going to be less than a 10-point dog in Tiger Stadium, you would have thought, what happened to DJ? When did he get hurt? What week did he get hurt? He hasn't. Starting quarterback's there for Clemson. This is just the way that the season has unfolded. So again, this is a 3:30 kick. Clemson minus 9.5. FSU has been running the ball exceptionally well. I mean, they were playing some of their best ball. As of late, Clemson has been what Clemson's been all year. I really don't think there have been a whole lot of ups and downs. It's been consistent, just been consistently poor. But I look and I think about what has to happen. Not for FSU to cover, but if they were to pull the upset. Kind of the same situation with Miami. What would have to happen? Well, FSU's got to run the ball, and they got to run the ball very effectively. I don't think that's going to happen against Clemson. I think they'll run it okay. I don't think they'll run it at a high level, which means they're going to have to do some stuff that they're probably not totally comfortable doing. And you get into a situation kind of like with Pitt and Miami, where you're just a lot more prone to making mistakes here. Now, here's the good news. Clemson should not be able to pull away in this game. So you should not come out of the tunnel already in desperation mode in the first quarter and Mike Norvell's heaving it up left and right. That shouldn't be the way that this unfolds. But my fear is, what happens if Florida State can't run at all? Well, what if instead of 6.2 yards per carry, it's 2.6 yards per carry, and then all of a sudden you're having to throw it and they know you're going to throw it? I think it's a recipe where Clemson wins the game. Model thinks the number is right. I picked Clemson by 10. So, I mean, by the slimmest of margins, I think they'll win and maybe backdoor cover this thing. But I think there will be a majority of this game where Florida State is close enough to where one of those bob plays, those bounce of ball plays, could change the outcome. And I think that you'll probably be texting your buddies, especially if you're an ACC fan, several times saying, hey, click, 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 click. FSU's hanging in there. They're still in there. I don't think Clemson's going to pull away. But I do think at the very end, they may stretch it enough to cover. So I'll take Clemson to win, Clemson to cover. Last game I wanted to touch on here, North Carolina's at Notre Dame. I could have sworn to you in the preseason, this is where we would have been this weekend for the Late Kick Renaissance Tour. Because look at what else we have. It was either going to be Penn State at Ohio State, it was going to be Georgia, Florida, or it was going to be North Carolina at Notre Dame. And it ends up being none of them. We're headed to Michigan State. That's why you plan your future in pencil, kids. Plan your seasons and your lives in pencil. This is the first game for Notre Dame after losing Kyle Hamilton. Talented safety there. They lost him for the year. I don't know that North Carolina is necessarily the best team to be drawing once you've lost one of your high-caliber safeties, which is why Notre Dame knows, this is no mystery, they need to control the game. Same way they did last time they played North Carolina. Control the game. That means you can't be letting someone jump out 2 scores on you early. So there's a lot of incentive So obviously, come out, have things under control. Don't let someone pop you on special teams early. This is not a game to settle into for Notre Dame. This is a very, very well-balanced team now, especially with Jack Cohn playing the way he is. It's a very well-balanced team. I think the same theme exists here as in the last two games. What North Carolina will have to do, because I don't think they'll have a ton of success running the ball, it's the same thing. They're going to have to throw it. Now, they got the cat to do it if he's on. If he's not on, we've already seen what's happened multiple times this year. Model likes Notre Dame a lot here. I do too. I think it's a different Irish team since they came out of their bye week. They're playing their best ball. I think they are kind of pulling one of those Clemsons. They're going to peak at the right time. They're not going to peak at as high a level as 2018 Clemson, let's say. But I like Notre Dame to win. I like Notre Dame to cover there. That's a good set of games now, and that's all throughout the day. It wasn't all in one chunk of like noon or all in 3:30. A lot of games there to pay attention to.